What's going on, Crimson Tide fans? Chris Daughtry here with the Alabama Football Report by Chat Sports. We got some important transfer portal and recruiting updates to talk about today, so I want you guys to help me out right here. Go ahead and spread the word to all the Gumps and Alabama fans out there. Share this video to social media, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is. Make sure you guys help me out and share today's video. Coming up on today's show, kind of like how I just teased right there, we're talking about some transfer portal targets here on today's video. A tight end that we recently talked about has officially scheduled a visit with Alabama. And also, Derek Zammit today committed to Washington, so Alabama's going to have to look a different direction for that 2026 quarterback. Obviously, they could still go after him, but there is another guy that we're going to talk about on today's video. All right, first up on today's show, just want to give a little bit of an update to a couple of transfer portal candidates that have already made their commitments that we have talked about here on previous videos. Jaden Ott, running back out of California, he ended up committing to Oklahoma very, very quickly. And man, that California running back room just absolutely got brutalized in the transfer portal. I believe they lost 5 running backs from their running back room. It's just been a very, very bad cycle there for Cal. And then Joe Cotton, we talked about him. Alabama supposedly had some interest from him, the offensive tackle out of South Dakota. He ended up committed to Cincinnati, which, he entered the transfer portal with a no contact tag as well. And, Cincinnati, and there was another school that I don't remember the name of. Were the two schools immediately that he ended up scheduling those visits to. So no real surprise there. And then also another tight end out of Cal, Jack Indries. He was one of the best tight ends in the transfer portal. He ended up committed to Texas. So Alabama the other day on Thursday, Brody Dalton was reportedly going to enter the transfer portal. He actually officially entered the transfer portal on Friday, the tight end out of Troy. This would be a very good option for Alabama as an inline tight end option. He spent 2 seasons at UAB before spending the past 2 seasons at Troy, started his final 8 games at Troy this past season, and he has been hearing from other SEC programs as well, with schools from the ACC, the Big Ten as well, according to Andrew Bone. But Alabama is looking for a cheap option at tight end that can provide some depth for them, and this very well could be an option. He does have a visit set up now with Alabama. This is what Pete Nakos of On3 said on Brody Dalton. He said, Troy tight end Brody Dalton is scheduled to visit Alabama next Tuesday. His manager, Corey Williams, tells On3. The 6'5", 250-pound tight end posted 15 catches and 188 yards and 3 touchdowns in 2024. He's emerged as a top tight end option in the transfer portal. So let me know here at the pinned comment of today's video, will Alabama land Brody Dalton in the transfer portal? Type Y for yes or N for no. It's the pinned comment of today's video, so if that ad comes here on YouTube, make sure you guys get down there and let me know what you guys think. Just because Brody Dalton is actually coming in for a visit with Alabama does not necessarily mean he will even leave with an offer, but let me know what you guys think. Will Alabama land Brody Dalton in the transfer portal? Type Y for yes or N for no. All right, so, tight end is a real position for Alabama that they're going after in the transfer portal here. You got Josh Cuevas, Danny Lewis Jr. Those guys are expected to be the top 2 tight ends for Alabama. Jay Lindsey, of course, was one of those guys who really got a ton of reps here in the springtime with all the injuries that you had at that tight end spot. Marshall Pritchett also got injured around the same time there as Josh Cuevas. And Caleb Edwards is not yet on campus. So Alabama going out, doing their due diligence in the transfer portal. And look, just because they are going after a tight end doesn't even necessarily mean they will land one. A lot of it has to do with fit, but tight end definitely a position to monitor here for Alabama. Now, another player that I wanted to touch on here, Clint Lamb the other day posted this on Twitter, talking about the Nebraska punter Jack McAllister. Now, we'll get into that in just a second. This is what Clint Lamb had to say. Talking about Jack McAllister, he started 2 years under Kalen DeBoer when he was at Washington. He averaged 43 yards per punt last season and also had a long of 62. does not necessarily know if Alabama would end up pursuing him, but it does make a little bit of sense. Now, some background here on Jack McAllister. He was a 3-year starter at Washington. He transferred to Nebraska during that winter transfer portal window, and I do think it is of note as well. He did stay at Washington through their bowl game, so he's got that team-first mentality that Alabama is really looking for, and he would just possibly be a positive, person to add to this locker room, because it really does seem like this team right now is really, really tight-knit. Now, like I said, he transferred to Nebraska during that winter transfer portal window, and a lot of times you don't necessarily want to go after guys that are, constantly transferring, but there was a legitimate reason here for this. There was a new special team coach that got hired at Nebraska after he ended up committing, and at the end of the day, there were just some differences in playing style. The main reason was Nebraska really wants to utilize that rugby punt. That's not necessarily something that Jack McAllister wants to do, but he is definitely somebody to monitor here in the transfer portal if you are indeed, if Alabama does want to go after a punter. Now, they do have a punter that they got in that 2026 class, Alex Asparuhov, but he is a true freshman coming into this season, and he was out for the entire spring, so he already missed out on a lot of really valuable reps and snaps. And, Alabama's done pretty decent in the past when it comes to freshman punters. I believe J.K. Scott was a freshman punter. I'm not quite sure on James Burnip or not. But when you talk about those special teams, it's a real between the ears type of position. So do you want to go out there and throw a freshman punter out there? That kind of seems like it's going to be Alabama's plan as of right now, but it is definitely something to monitor, punters entering the transfer portal during this spring transfer portal window. All right, we'll continue with a 2026 quarterback target here in just a second, but today's show is presented by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets faster and easier, even for hard-to-get playoff seats. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to tip-off, and with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest prices guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. They have last-minute deals that you guys can take advantage of. You can save up to 60% off by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. You can go to Alabama baseball games. You can already get tickets for Alabama football as well. Talladega coming up here next week. You guys, if you've never been to Talladega, it is a very, very fun event. Also, go ahead and catch a Braves baseball game as well. Not a very far drive from Tuscaloosa. Game Time picks, you can use that feature, and it just makes getting last-minute ticket buying even easier than ever. By quickly highlighting the best deals in the stadium, one of my favorite things about Game Time are the panoramic views from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what your view is going to look like before you buy your tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and redeem promo code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem promo code CHATSPORTS. That's ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. That link's in the comment section and the description of today's video. So download the Game Time app today. They have last-minute tickets at the lowest prices, all guaranteed. Now, Alabama has recently contacted 2026 quarterback, I'm going to butcher the name here, Matt Ponatoski. I think that's how it is, Stone. According to Steve Wiltfong of On3, Alabama has contacted him. He is a star baseball player out of Cincinnati as well. We'll talk about it here in just a second. I keep getting ahead of myself here. He's already taken visits for baseball, official visits to Kentucky, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Georgia Tech, Mississippi State, and Duke. This is a kid that's got a really big arm as well. Already a 92-mile-an-hour fastball off the mound. He does play shortstop, third base, and he's a pitcher. So you know kind of how it goes in high school baseball. The most athletic guys usually are going to be playing shortstop for you. And really, I do think that footwork, does carry over from baseball to football as well. Just the way he works the pocket is really impressive, on his huddle tape. For almost the entirety of his huddle tape, he's got defenders bearing down on him in his face, and he just stays really calm, cool, and collected, ending up, staying in the pocket and delivering some, really accurate footballs to those playmakers. He was also named the Gatorade Player of the Year for the state of Ohio in football as a junior after putting up some really, really impressive numbers that we'll show you guys here in just a second. Well, this is what he told Steve Wiltfong of On3 about the latest in his recruitment. He said, "I have recently been in contact with Wake Forest, Oklahoma, and Alabama, and we'll see how those relationships start to build and see if I want to get to those places. But with a busy summer, don't really have any set plans. Might get back to some of those places I've already been to on official visits as well." Now, we'll continue on here in just a second, but want to make sure you guys are subscribed right here to the Alabama Football Report. Going up against our Ohio State Buckeyes Football Report YouTube channel, and we're doing a really good job beating them in this sub-battle here in the month of April. So help me out. Do not miss any Alabama football news or rumors out there. Make sure you guys hit that sub button for me right now. Now, Matt P., that's just what I'm going to call him for now. He is a 4-star quarterback in this 2026 recruiting class. 247 Sports Rankings has him as the number 20 overall quarterback and the number 12 player out of the state of Ohio. And we talked about that impressive junior season, over 4,000 yards passing, 57 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. So all these quarterbacks that Alabama, with Nick Sheridan and Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb, they all kind of have one thing in common. They take care of the football. Now, I'd assume that if he wants to play quarterback at Alabama, he won't be playing baseball. A.J. McCarron has that really funny story about Nick Saban telling them that he wasn't going to be playing baseball at Alabama if he wants to be the quarterback at Alabama. Remember also, Kool-Aid McKinstry wanted to play basketball as well here. That did not end up happening either. So obviously, it is a different coaching staff right now, but one would assume that if Alabama wants to make a push and is able to land him in this 2026 class, probably won't be playing baseball. I would assume if he wants to be playing baseball, he would have to go somewhere else.